Previously on Libel the Bible.
We diagnose God as a sociopathic, histrionic, malignant narcissist.
The Israelites have an unleavened bread festival to celebrate their escape.
God manipulates Pharaoh into chasing after the Israelites.
God uses Moses to part the Red Sea, allowing the Israelites to escape the Egyptians.
God then closes the Red Sea upon the Egyptians, killing all who followed the Israelites.
The Israelites have a Jewish Woodstock.
God gives everyone manna.
And now, episode 16 of Libel the Bible. I'm going without the headphones today.
Oh shit, I just hit record, but all right, I'm Scott.
I'm Rusty.
I'm glad you're going without the headphones, because for those who weren't in the room with us just now, I just painfully watched Rusty take about 20 minutes to set up his microphone here.
Well, not everybody goes into this as haphazardly as you do, Scott. Like I take this a little more seriously. That's why when you listen to the show, I sound like a professional and you sound a little buffoonish at times.
When we release the video, I'm going to show you how many ways this mic boom articulates. It's only got like two elbows and a swivel, and he just couldn't figure it out. It was like a big puzzle to him.
Amy is constantly telling me how she's amazed by my level of intelligence and how proportionately stupid I am when it comes to like levers and like a book bag. You know when you would have to adjust like shoulder straps on a book bag and you've got like the the straps coming in through like those hooks. I can't figure that shit out. It's been 49 years. I don't know like how to tighten it.
So you can't adjust a bra.
I don't know.
Even on both sides either. It's kind of the same.
Adjust the bra?
Yeah.
I've never really had to adjust the bra. Yeah. I've had to remove a bra, but I've never had to adjust the bra.
Okay. Okay, maybe it's just me.
Do you adjust bras?
Sometimes.
Okay. I mean, listen, that's...
Yeah, so
I'm in favor of whatever lifestyle you choose to lead.
Yeah, so Rusty asked me to adjust my microphone because it was kind of nice. He's like, I miss seeing your face.
That's why I'm also not wearing headphones. Like, I can hear you now. Like, if it almost feels like I'm in the room with you, as opposed to like, it feels more personal without the headphones.
Episode without the headphones. I'm going to leave mine on this time, and if you say it's good.
Okay.
If you said let there be no headphones, and you found it was good.
Well, I'm definitely going to be good.
No, I mean, let's go through the whole episode. You don't know. I mean, if it might be 20 minutes, you're not going to like it.
You think I'm going to have a down night?
No, I just think you're what's the word for it?
Overconfident?
No, you just change your mind a lot. You're wishy-washy.
Wishy-washy?
Yeah, that's right.
I think the term that you're looking for is introspective and thoughtful. People who are introspective and thoughtful tend to like work through things and will change their mind based on new data, new information,
right?
New means of processing. They're not just dug in.
So the next time you adjust that microphone, it'll take half the amount of time because you'll have that data in your head.
Oh, no. Like I said, I'm an idiot when it comes to like shit like that.
All right. But now you can't
I'm a thinker, not a doer, Scott.
I'm a thinker, not a stinker. All right, so anything else you want to talk about before we get into it? Do we want to discuss your anger issues on there, or that's something we'll talk about?
I mean, if you feel like you want to discuss my anger
issues, your text messages lately. I mean, it's hard to get tone in a text message.
What am I saying?
Just I'm not going to go through it.
No. Tell me. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to do that on air. But
was it more than one? Was it 10?
It seemed like ever since like you got involved with like a little competition, like your text messages were quite inflammatory and quite
that. No, that I'm really fucking angry at. All right, so here's the situation, everyone. So on Twitter, I'm in Libel the Bible. I got me and Scott into like some kind of 64 podcast bracket. It's completely fucking meaningless. It's just nonsense, really. But whatever, any little exposure you can get. So if you're involved in a 64 team bracket, someone's going to see the name of the podcast, maybe check it out, And at this point, like 1 or 2 viewers here or there.
That doesn't sound small at all. I think that's
64.
I think it's good. It's like a field day for us.
Yeah, but we're like in one of those situations where if 1,000 people hear about us,
yeah,
we might get like 2 listeners out of it. You know what I mean? Like that's the world of like podcasting.
See, I like the optimistic
online
Rusty.
media.
Like
You need numbers. Yeah. So anyway, fuck it. So I entered this thing, and we get matched up against another podcast, and each round of the tournament involves something different. So in the first round, it involved like a meme. You had to create a meme about the other podcast.
Well, that's good. That forces people to listen to other people's podcasts, and right there,
which is what I did.
It's nice.
And I listened to the other podcast, and it was garbage. It was,
it
was shit,
dude.
I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the audio quality. The audio quality was absolutely atrocious, which is understandable for a new podcast. Yeah. So I didn't just listen to the first few. I listened to all the, I listened to parts of almost every episode.
Right.
And it sounded like they were recording in a submarine.
So did you maybe reach out to your, this fledgling podcast and, offer some advice? Like, hey guys,
Well, I did reach out.
Yeah.
There's a group chat for all the podcasts involved.
Oh, yeah.
And I tagged them in the group chat telling them that Libel the Bible was going to kick the shit out of them in the first challenge. But
is that before we knew what the challenge was?
We knew that it was, yes, we already knew that it was a meme challenge.
And when Rusty says we, he's talking kind of like God. He's really talking about himself because I really had nothing to go to with this.
Well, I mean, right. So Scott isn't creating the meme. Scott's busy with the website, which is looking great, by the way, libelthebible.com. Everybody should check it out. It's really great. There's definitely some nitpicky things I have with the design, but that's all right. Scott's going to work through it, and I've made a concerted effort because I have given Scott so many show notes. Like, there are going to be certain things I'm just going to let it go at this point.
And now I open the alcohol.
So...
I'm doing shots today. I'm not even doing wine.
I can't wait to come up in therapy, Scott's therapy. So anyway, getting back to this podcast challenge. So the bottom line is this. They've been radio silent on Twitter, this podcast that we're going up against. They haven't been around. They haven't posted a meme. I did post a meme.
Okay.
And there's 30 votes. As of our recording right now, there's just about 30 votes. And we have close to 70% of the votes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Except the other podcast didn't put anything up. So 30% of the people who are voting voted for nothing. So I was texting Scott. This is where my anger that Scott was talking about comes in. I was texting Scott fucking pissed off. And you know what it is? It's a microcosm of humanity.
Nice.
I hate humanity. Okay. I like people. Like individual people, I like.
Okay.
Humanity as a whole, I fucking hate. It's funny, me and Amy laugh because Amy's the opposite. Amy, she loves humanity. She doesn't like people, like individual people.
That's a good. So,
to me, it encapsulated just the stupidity and idiocy of people. Either people think they're being funny, or, sure, let's say a few of them are people who listen to that other podcast. Right. But even still, the podcast didn't submit anything. What are they voting for?
Right. It's not even a participation vote because they didn't even participate.
Right. They have nothing.
Wow.
So you don't understand the anger over that?
There's one of two things that are happening here. One, their people are just voting for them blindly because they're their people, or they're actively voting against you. It doesn't matter what the other. They just know anything you put up is not going to be as good as what they put up, or they just don't like you or your views.
It's very possible. Yeah. It's very possible.
It's vote blue no matter who, even if blue sucks, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, what I've realized is we're in a niche where right off the bat, a decent amount of the population is already against us. Just like when they read about what the show is that we do.
Well, you probably felt like that almost your whole life walking out your front door, right?
Like the whole world is against me? Why did I have to walk out the front door? I felt that way inside my door.
Oh, so yeah. Speaking of therapy, that should come up. All right, how does this meme thing work? Like how long?
And by the
when's the voting?
by the way, I'm sorry. Even if I am a little bit angry or angrier than usual this week, it's might not be for a bad cause, right? I haven't had a cigarette in 9 days.
Nice, man. Get up here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just physically touched. Hands, high fived.
Not in the way
Nice.
I
9
wanted
days.
to.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah, so I haven't had a cigarette for 9 days. So if I have an occasional outburst, I'm sorry, Scott.
Dude, I'm here to be your punching bag if it gets you through this tumultuous time in your life.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
You don't appreciate shit. That's your problem. Anyway,
That's gonna trigger me. I'm gonna buy like a carton on the way home.
I'll have you know, I just this month I hit 11 years actually without a
Very
cigarette.
good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay.
No one cares. What have you done for us lately, Scott? You quit drinking for a month.
Month and a half.
A month and a half.
Yeah. Then
Now you've got. Wait, you got a shot, and did you open wine?
No, I was out of wine. But in case I run out of shots, I'm going to open this sangria, which is not really like a thing, you know.
Sangria.
Yeah. I decided I'll try and empty my house of all the alcohol that's been here forever.
All right.
So I'm just going to work through it.
All right. Well, I mean, you want to get to the episode?
Sure.
Have we bantered enough?
Sure.
All right. I don't know. I felt like we're going to cover 3 chapters today. Exodus.
When you said that, I thought it was going to be only 3 chapters, but then it was good
I
stuff.
wanted to call you during the week. So I had read. So usually, like, I'll go through the reading real quick. At like right after we record an episode, the next day, I'll. That didn't go down well. Scott just had a shot. Was that the sangria?
No.
Oh, what was that?
Fucking Jameson's.
Oh, you had a shot of Jameson's. All right.
It's not the best whiskey.
Yeah,
You know,
it
a lot
didn't
of
look
people
like it
swear
went
by it,
down.
but it's not really that good. That's why people do it shots in bars. It's usually when you're drunk you do Jameson.
Sure.
You probably shouldn't try and get drunk on Jameson.
Well, there's different like labels too, right?
Oh,
for
is there?
Jameson.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is just your run-of-the-mill regular Jameson. Yeah. He should have let that barrel sink.
Maybe I'm thinking of Johnny Walker. I'm thinking of Johnny Walker, like Johnny Walker. Red, blue, black. Yeah. All right. So anyway, we're going to do Exodus 17 through 19 this week, which when I read it, I thought was a little bit too short. But the problem is Exodus 20.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. I saw what you did there.
So we want to do Exodus 20, and then 20, 21, however many it takes to cover the next section.
Excited about that next section.
Yeah.
I'm excited about these sections, actually.
All right. So, so after having considered calling Scott and I wanted to have a whole conversation with Scott. What do you want to do? Do you want to go into 20 and just stop at 20? And then I was like, fuck it, I'll just tell him. 17 through 19. And then when I reread it again, like when I went deeper into it, there's shit to talk about in 17, 18, 19.
Let's get to you thinking about calling me. Were you sitting on the couch like half dialing my number, and then we're like, no, why isn't he calling me? No, he should call me now. It's his turn to call. Anything like that?
No, not at all like that.
Let's move on. Just, just feeling out our relationship on the air here, man.
Scott, you make these comments suggesting that I'm passive aggressive. When have you ever known me to be any passive? Right. I'm just aggressive.
Yeah, but you can be unsure of yourself, especially when you're alone.
Okay. It sounds like this should be like an 80s like hair metal song.
Yeah.
Be unsure of yourself when you're alone.
Yeah.
But then I come to you at night and you're so sure of yourself.
Okay, let's get into the episode.
As our bodies entwine.
Episode Exodus
in the
17. Water from the rock. Or real rock from the rock.
All right. So
Public Enemy.
you got to imagine, right, Scott? I mean, the Israelites have escaped.
Woohoo!
God has parted the Red Sea.
I hardly think of it as an escape, though.
Right.
It was like Han Solo escaping the Death Star.
All right,
you know,
right.
they let him get away.
So what is it called? It's
We'll
called
call
the
it
Exodus,
it's
right?
An Exodus. It's a.
But what do we call it then?
I guess it's an escape.
A leaving.
It's an escape with a lot of help. I guess I don't know.
I mean, they did escape because they were chased, right?
It's an escape.
It's
an escape. Yes.
by the Pharaoh, as you say,
exactly,
and his army.
It's an escape.
Okay,
yes.
So they've escaped, and now they're like walking around the desert. They finally were given manna to eat, which the section ended saying that for the next 40 years, that's pretty much what they were going to have to eat.
That's great.
But now, they're fucking thirsty as fuck.
Wait, before we get that far, so from the wilderness of sin, the Israelites came in stages. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I thought this, but when I read in stages, because remember he said it in squads or what? Something like that.
Yes.
So when I thought
it's in stages, yes.
I don't even know how I thought of this. I thought of like an old 8-bit, like maybe a Commodore 64 game. Like you know the whole rash, like the whole breakdancing craze in the 80s.
Sure.
And there was like games where you had to like have dance offs.
Yes.
So like the first stage would be like a bunch of dudes like popping and locking. And you had to match their moves to get past them.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking that's what the Hebrews were doing, like the first stage.
Right. So the first stage, right? Yeah. Like the drum crew came out, then the clarinets followed.
Next crew was up rocking or something.
So you think by the time they get to this like Amalek attacks business, you think that's more like what do you call it?
Lots of footwork, man. Maybe some spins.
You think it's like a face-off, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You think maybe yeah.
Or what's it called? Slam the yard. What do they call that?
Stomp the yard.
Stomp the yard. Right. You think it's a stomp the yard situation?
No, isn't stomp the yard like music, like the drum corps and?
It's like the break dancing.
Yeah, they just
stomp the yard. Well, not break dancing, but it's like a dance off.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely
pop and lock.
I think it was a pants off dance off.
Right. All right. So they're going in stages. You're right, and this is going to be important because so they're really thirsty and they're totally complaining like constantly to Moses, like constant fucking complaining. I mean, you can't blame them.
I was going to get to that. Yes. At first, I was like, "Stop, you damn bitch!"
But you can't blame them. Like they don't have water.
No. First, they didn't have food.
Right, and the food is just
food's
manna.
crap.
Right,
The food is crap.
It's like prison. So they're complaining. So by the way, sin, S-I-N. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure it's pronounced sign.
Yeah, I'm sure it is
because they're in the Sinai Peninsula.
That would make sense. Yeah.
So sign, sin.
Do you know if you know a Cindy that spells her name with an S? Watch out for that girl. She's definitely going to be a stripper or something.
Really?
All right, yeah, she's got it.
We used to hang out with a Cindy.
With an S?
I don't know if it was with an S. We used to, our insurance company that we used to hang out at. That's another story. So, all right. So, they're in the Sinai Peninsula. They're out of water. They're complaining to Moses. So, Moses goes to God, and he's like, yo, they're going to fucking kill me. They're going to stone me.
Right. So, now, again, is God just forgetful of their needs? Like, he just sits and forgets? Like, they're off wandering, and it takes the phone call all the time to go... And he has got to go, oh, shoot, yeah, I forgot.
I don't know so much that he forgets or he doesn't care as much. So he's not really thinking about it.
I'm going to take it a step further, and it's going to lead to my theory later.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he's unsure of what the needs of these humans are. Like, he may have created them, supposedly, but maybe he doesn't quite know exactly what they need.
Right, like he created them in his image, right?
Right.
But... he's not really made of. Is he made of flesh? Like, what does that mean in his image?
We just look like him.
And then why can't we look at him without going like, I think it's going to be implied a little later, like they can't look at
Oh,
him.
no, I got
we're going to get into
too.
that too, right? But it's the implication is like they'll be driven mad or crazy or die if they see me. But if we're made in his image, why is any of that reality?
I don't know.
No, but that is a good point. Like he doesn't know. Like
maybe he just doesn't know the needs.
He doesn't spend a lot of time with us. He's like an absentee like father. You know, he's like one of these professional athletes who spent his whole life like playing, and then he retires and he comes home and he's got like these kids, and he doesn't know like what to do with them.
Yeah, makes sense. So he says, grab some elders, go ahead of the people, bring your staff, and come up to this rock.
Yeah.
And strike the rock.
Right.
And water will come forth from the rock.
Right.
Now, that's great, but he went ahead with the elders, so now they have water.
Right.
What about the 3 million people behind them?
And by the way, it's not just them. They're going in stages, right?
Yeah.
So it's only the stage that Moses is in. What about all the other ones?
Oh, right.
Right? So I'm assuming like Moses and his stage show up to like point A, right?
Yeah.
They move on, and the stage behind them then shows up to point A, right? Like,
yeah, and the later stages are doing the more intricate moves, so they're using a lot more energy. You know, doing a backspin, a head spin, all that stuff. You know, the guys that are pop and lock, maybe they start later. They move later in the day.
By the way, okay, so everyone is thirsty, and God's like, go to this place and do this, right? Wouldn't it be easier to just make it rain? Like, God made it rain so bad that it flooded the whole goddamn fucking planet in like a matter of weeks. Why don't you make it rain somewhere in between there and like where people can quench their thirst?
It's famine or you're covered in quails.
Yeah, it's like, just make it rain. Yeah. Why the rock? Why all this like...
Cindy will make you make it rain, right?
From her vag.
Yeah.
All right, so long story short, they get water, I guess. It's explained. The explanation for how they get water is this ludicrous story.
Yeah, comes out of the rock. So now,
and by the way,
do they just drink it like at a fountain, like as a fountain, or like they have to gather it up in some vessels?
I mean, that's definitely
arcs?
we can imagine that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they don't mention it again, so who cares? They're all quenched, right?
See, I would think it's like a faucet, you know, it's just like, it doesn't like spray up, it just like comes down so they can like, you know, like put a bucket underneath it or whatever they have. I don't know if they have buckets or what they have.
Stone faucets are probably pretty expensive these days,
Stone faucets?
Stone faucets?
Oh.
Yeah, it's got to be expensive.
You can't even get someone to like grout it properly anymore, man. People have lost the art of like home building.
Yeah.
I mean, no, really. Like, you go look at like any church in Manhattan from like 400 years ago. It's a beautiful structure. Go look at floorboards in like apartments nowadays. After like 3 years, they're just like,
it's just crap.
Yeah, it's shit.
This is amazing structure in Newark. It's like a basilica or a cathedral. I don't even know what you call it.
It's always the churches.
It's amazing. It doesn't even look like something that belongs on this continent. It looks like something that's centuries old, and it's I don't remember the name of it, but everybody check it out. Check it out, like big church in Newark.
Yeah, check out this church that I don't know where it is or what the name is,
but it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure there's only one in
Newark.
Newark.
No, it's huge. I mean, it's dominant. It's like makes St. Patrick's look puny.
Okay. So speaking of Europe and other nations, we can now officially call the people who Moses are with Israel, because they are now being referred to by Israel as Israel.
As the collective, they are Israel.
They are Israel.
But they're not in Israel yet, right?
I would say you could say that these people are the nation of
but,
Israel.
But
they don't have a city-state of Israel yet.
So this referendum that they're camped out in is not part of Israel yet?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about what happens when they camp out.
All right,
there.
so they finally get water, and they arrive wherever the fuck they arrive.
Rephidim.
Is that what it is? Rephidim?
Or Rephidim or...
And someone named Amalek.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a person or a bunch of people called Amalek.
I thought it was Abimelech for a second.
Like Romulan, Amalek.
Oh, shoot, like the Amaleks?
Right.
Oh. No, no, it wouldn't be. Because it would be Amalekites or some shit like
Amalekites.
that.
Yeah. So the section is titled in Exodus 17, Amalek attacks Israel and is defeated.
Maybe Amalek's a derogatory term for, like, it's a racist term for some people.
Oh, so like the rabbis that were writing the Bible, right?
Dirty Amaleks.
It was like the way like Vietnam vets would talk about like the Vietnamese using like slurs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or anybody using slurs. So yeah.
Like the G word.
The G word, yeah. So this is the A word.
The S word.
Yeah. All right. So so Amalek is coming to fight him. And I'm assuming it's more than one man, right? It's like his.
So that's what I'm saying. So Amalek attacks Israel. Is that like, is he a general or a ruler, or is it just the people?
Let's just say it's a people, just like
Amalek.
Like Israel's a people. We'll say Amalek. It's like we'll say Amalek's fighting Israel.
All right. So Moses is immediately like, yo. He tells someone.
Joshua.
Yeah, Joshua. I don't know. Do you know who Joshua is? They use names like we're supposed to know who these people are. This person has never been introduced.
He was Professor Falcon's son.
Oh, the one that he wrote the game for?
Yeah. The password was...
All right, so Moses is like, do you want to play a game?
Yeah.
And Joshua's like, yeah. And Moses is like, go down real close to the fighting. He's like, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to stand on this rock that's like all the way back here.
Yeah. And what's funny is he goes, go now to fight. Yeah. I'm going to the rock tomorrow.
Yeah.
Joshua just said, hey, fancy boy, why don't you go to the rock first, and then I'll go.
Right. And then he gets up on the rock, and this whole James Brown scene takes place. You know, like when James Brown is like performing and he gets like all like excited and he's exhausted and he collapses and like his handlers throw like the cape over him. That's pretty much like what happens with Moses. Apparently, in order for the Israelites to defeat Amalek, Moses has to keep his hands up. Right?
Yeah, Amalek all of a sudden.
Amalek?
We were saying Amalek. We both said Amalek like 13 times. Okay. Now you're Amalek. And then you're going to make fun of how I pronounce things.
I'm sorry, Scott. Yeah. You're right.
That's how you do.
You know what it is, Scott? It's my anger issues. It's my anger issues.
Yes, it is.
So all Moses has to do to defeat this army is hold his hands up. And motherfucker can't even do that.
Well, first of all, he goes. Well, thankfully, he goes up there with two other people. Moses, Aaron, and Hur go up there.
Her.
Each with a book and a quarter. Moses came down with 375.
That's good. That's good. You did the math on 3 times a buck and a quarter.
I had to write it out. It's
that's
in my
good.
notes.
Oh, nice.
Don't say 250. Yeah. So now Moses realizes every time he raises his hands with the staff, Joshua's winning.
Yeah.
Every time he puts his hands down, Amalek's winning.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm like wondering how many times like he did that to test it. Like Joshua was like looking up, like, dude, keep your fucking hands.
Well,
up.
I don't think he realized it. I think like he inherently knew. You know, like he knows, like he's got it. Because he's the conduit of the Lord.
Yeah.
So he's like standing there with his arms up. That's what I'm doing right now. For those of you that can't see me, I've got my arms up. Right, but at a certain point, like you do get tired.
Say
like,
don't
after
shoot.
Like
Say
3-4 hours.
Say don't shoot.
Don't shoot.
Hands up. Don't shoot. Forget it, man.
Yeah.
How quickly we forget civil struggles.
Oh.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. BLM. So he's got his hands up, and after 3-4 hours, you do get tired.
3 or 4 minutes, dude. Seriously, leave your hands up the rest of the podcast.
Well, first of all, I can certainly leave my hands up for 3-4 minutes, and I could certainly leave them up longer if I'm like adrenalized. Like if there's a battle and my side's victory is dependent on me keeping my hands up,
Oh, nice.
that's going to add some time to like...
You rise to the occasion.
Especially
That's
if God... And by the way, why can't God just help him keep his fucking hands up?
I'm going to tell you why.
Go ahead.
Because he's usually, and I didn't get into, you said he was channeling the energy of God. He really is. And God's above. I'm not going to tell you doing what or what he's in right now.
By the way, how do we know God's above? We keep saying shit like that.
They say it later.
Do they say that?
It's coming, yeah. So it's like electricity. He's like the lightning rod. Right now, God's energy's all over the place. So he's focusing.
He channels
with
it.
his hands, yeah.
Why God
He's
can't?
like-
God
he's
doesn't
like
know
the-
how to channel his energy.
He's like the headpiece to the staff of Ra. You know, in the map room.
Sure.
So that light's all over the place, but when
Sure.
it hits him, he's the headpiece.
Sure.
He focuses it.
Sure. And he's got to be in that exact spot.
Right.
Right.
The German staff was too long. They're standing in the wrong place.
You know those Germans and their long staffs. So Moses basically, he can't keep his arms up and he gets help.
Yes.
They find a rock for him to sit on.
Yeah.
And then two guys, who were the guys?
Aaron, his
Aaron
well-spoken
and
brother,
Hur?
and Hur, H-U-R.
Okay.
Not the amazing musician, by the way.
There's
You know her?
No.
H-E-R?
H-E-R?
She's a singer and like
No.
she's amazing. She's amazing.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, she reminds me like of a female prince.
That's St. Vincent. St. Vincent is a female prince, bro.
Okay, well,
You
compare.
really got to listen to some St. Vincent.
All right.
Like on headphones or like properly. Got to listen to her
I just
properly.
made a suggestion.
It's so
man.
good.
You're giving me orders. I just make suggestions.
I'll give you some songs. And by the way, anyone listening, St. Vincent, she's the shit.
Are we getting a royalty for that? Like some sort of
No royalty for that.
All right.
So he gets help, holding his hands up, and eventually the Israelis, they win.
Till sun, yeah, he holds his arms up till sunset, and they win at sunset.
Okay.
Do you think they would start looking around for like long sticks and some twine, just like tie him to the sticks to prop his hands up?
It is weird. Like, it's almost like, I don't know. It's another loophole. So in other words, God,
It's like, do this one thing.
like, needs to use him as the conduit. So he needs to hold his hands up. But God allows people to hold his hands up.
I know why this is happening.
It's kind of like the elevator on Sabbath that, stops at every floor because you're not supposed to use electronic devices, even though you're on a goddamn fucking elevator.
Yeah, right. Like it's not the benefit of the work that you have to avoid. It's the work itself.
Right.
It's just it's a weird.
It's a terrible loophole.
Hit that button for me? No. If I'm stuck stopping on every floor, you're stopping on every floor too. That didn't make really any sense, but well, anyway. All right, so then the Lord says, write this in a book and recite it to Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
It's stupid.
That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right, because he's telling him to put something in a book that says God's not going to remember Amalek.
Do you know why he told him to put it in a book and not just tell him? Because Moses is a mumble-mouthed idiot. That's why he has Aaron with him. Remember, he doesn't talk well. So, I don't know if that's why, but
No, explain that. That's interesting.
because Moses doesn't talk well.
All right, so hold on.
Oh wait, was it Abraham that didn't talk well?
No, Moses doesn't talk
right,
well.
Yeah.
What does God want to do with this Amalek? He wants to wipe his memory out.
Utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek.
Right,
So
so
that means we're gonna forget this all happened.
Right, even though we're literally, but it doesn't make sense, right? Because he tells him it's kind of like, in Mission Impossible, every mission starts with like that secret message that then destructs the self-destruct. Right. This is the reverse of that. God is like, okay, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't ever have anybody know this. So write it down in a book.
Oh, that's yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's stupid.
Oh shoot, yeah. Why and recite it to Joshua? Oh, yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
So now, why does he want to erase the memory of the event? Is he guilt? Does he feel guilt? Like he caused this fight too, and more people died?
No, he wants to. He wants to deny him the honor.
Does he? He wants to deny Amalek the honor?
Yeah. Like
okay,
honor.
but I'm assuming if he wipes all memories of Amalek out, are now all the Israeli soldiers standing in a bloody field, not knowing how they got there and who these dead bodies are, or the dead body's gone too?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's like a lost time incident.
So I don't think...
Like all of a sudden, like what happened? What happened the last 4 hours, last 24 hours?
Right. It's like that Star Trek episode where they keep blowing up like the Enterprise and they got to like figure out like what's going on. Yeah. They restart at the same point over and over. I think that's not what's going on. I think God means like future generations. Like we're not going to talk about these people.
What does God need with a starship? That's a Star Trek 5.
And the Undiscovered Country. That's like the... No, I'm sorry. No,
Frontier.
don't tell me that... that's the one where they go to the end of like the universe or whatever.
Yeah. And they meet God.
What's it called? That's the shitty one that Shatner directed, right? That's
awful.
like the worst one, apparently. I haven't seen that one.
Really?
The Undiscovered Country is 6. That's like considered like
that one.
The third best one, right? Khan, then The Voyage Home, and then The Undiscovered Country.
I like Khan for the nostalgia's sake, then Undiscovered Country, and
then The Voyage Home.
I gotta say,
I heard The Search of Spock is like getting like as it's aged.
I like the motion picture better as I'm getting older. So.
Yeah,
but it's not
because it's more like the TV show, right? It's more like casual and laid back.
Yeah.
It's not like the action bullshit. It's basically become like Star Wars.
It's long, drawn out, and boring.
I mean, it's like a movie theater audience. You know, they need like all the fucking idiots.
Yeah. So now there's this lost time. The Israelites don't know what happened for the last 24 hours, apparently. Because
no, I don't think so. I just think God means like for future generations, like we're not going to give either the person Amalek or the people the Amalek. We're not going to give.
Oh, it's like when there's a mass shooter and we will not say his name anymore.
Yeah, we're just not going to give them their due. And maybe he even means like we are now going to like breed with them and like wipe out their memories. Kind of like, so you know, Putin, he's taking like Ukrainian children now, like that are orphans, and he's like bringing them into Russia and having them adopted by like Russians. So it's almost like, it's not genocide, but it's like a form of genocide where he's right. So that maybe that's what God means. Like we're just gonna assimilate these people and
but there's a line at the end that throws that all off.
All right.
He says the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So I don't know. I have no idea.
So write it's a contradiction.
Write it in a book. Nobody's going to remember it, and we're going to fight generation after generation.
It's a contradiction.
So the Amalek must be a people, I'm assuming. It's not just a person. So,
bro,
who cares, right? It's just a victory, right? It's a victory. Let's take it.
I think what you just talk about is a perfect example of what's wrong with the book. One, it lacks so much detail. It introduces characters out of nowhere who are apparently super important, but they're only given like one line. There's contradictions within like a paragraph. There's a paragraph starts and ends with two things that are diametrically opposed to one another. And so this is where like the confusion must come in for like people who believe this book literally. I mean, it's I don't know how.
I told one of my God-fearing friends. I mentioned to her what we were doing.
God-fearing.
And I sent her like a.
Does she fear?
I don't know.
That's a weird phrase, by the way, if you think about it, because he does want you to fear him.
Yes, it's not weird at all.
He's an extortionist.
Yeah.
He's like knocking on your door. He's like, I'm here to save you. And you're like, from who? And he's like, from myself if you don't do what I tell you.
That's what's called a racket, people.
Yeah.
You got to pay for protection from who? From me.
So what's your friend?
So she was like, you're not really doing this, are you? I was like, of course I am. Yeah, we're doing this. And so I sent her like a screenshot of like one of the like a week ago.
Yeah, we're like 15 episodes in. We're doing it.
We're doing this. We are in the pool. So I sent her a screenshot, like one of the atrocities, like of the two daughters raping Lot, raping their father.
She said, I have no idea. I didn't know this happened.
No, she goes, yeah, that's the Old Testament. There's a lot of weird stuff in there. I consider myself a New Testament type girl. I was like, okay, that's fair enough. Listen, I'm sure, you pick and choose what you go by. So I'll see.
You should have told her that Jesus was Jewish.
We're not there yet, though. I can't talk on things I don't know.
You don't know that Jesus was Jewish?
No. I don't know who Jesus is yet.
You're 49 years old.
I told you, we're not doing this anymore, man. I am in.
But you were having a conversation with her in real life.
Yeah, about the Old Testament, because that's all I've read. But only part of it.
But she mentioned the New Testament.
Oh, I should have said, what the hell does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Right. If you're following your ridiculous train of like logic, sure.
All right, so that brings us to Exodus 18.
You know what you're like? So, what's his name? Jim Carrey did an Andy Kaufman movie.
Yeah.
The biopic of Andy Kaufman. And then he did like a documentary about making that movie. And apparently he was just like in character. The entire time he was like Andy Kaufman.
Method actor.
Making him like completely fucking insufferable.
Yeah.
That's what you're like right now. You're completely like with this whole like, I don't know what Jesus is. We haven't gotten to Jesus.
Hey, what if
it makes conversation impossible?
What if I actually extend this into my real life and literally don't mention anything biblical that I haven't read yet?
You do what you got to do, Scott.
You know what? Then I can tell people, tell me about this Jesus. And then when I get to it, I'm like, that guy didn't know what the hell he was talking about. What is it? Yeah. All right. So, Exodus 18.
Forget Jesus. Let's get the Jethro's advice.
Now, Jethro was the guy I made fun of, like having like a Midwest name.
Jethro was the guy.
He had a different name at one point.
Jethro, right? He was introduced as Moses' father-in-law with some name, and then the next time he gets talked about, his name was Jethro, which you rightfully pointed out and made fun of.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Jethro is his father-in-law, and he has Zipporah and her two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. Now, Zipporah was Moses' wife. He sent her away before the battle started. Like, I don't remember. Did I miss part of this, or I just forgot?
Again, they didn't mention any of that.
You think Moses sent away his family to be safe while he asked all these other families to make this?
Bro, I mean, that's the only conclusion you can come to, right?
Yeah.
Like, he sent, but in fairness, his wife isn't an Israelite, right? Because remember, he fled Egypt, and the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. He fled Egypt to Midian, where he winds up like living out like 40 years of his life there, basically.
Right.
And
his father-in-law is the priest of Midian.
Right. So he's not an Israelite. They like believe in some other like god or gods or whatever.
Not for long.
So technically his wife isn't Jewish.
Okay.
Or whatever, an Israeli Israelite. But either way, look, whether he sent her away, right, or not, it's superfluous. Yeah. It's superfluous to this entire passage because the father shows up, Jethro shows up. The fact that his daughter and his grandkids are with him don't do anything for the story. Like, he could have shown up with or without her, and it does nothing for the rest of the story.
Well, maybe not, but somebody might have asked, like, where's Moses' wife and
somebody might have asked too. So like the rabbis like writing like
no, I mean somebody in our
book
world might have asked like, what happened to his wife and kids?
Oh, so the rabbi that wrote Exodus 18
was taking that into consideration.
Yeah. Oh shit! I haven't mentioned.
Right. It's a plot hole.
So it's like the sloppiness of like the Game of Thrones final season, where they're like, we got to tie up some like loose ends real quick. Yes. So where it used to take like an entire season to get from point A to point B, we're gonna do that in like a half an episode now.
I'm pretty sure if I mentioned the chains that they pulled the dragon out of the lake with, that this is completely. We've done this before. Like we've definitely talked about this already.
No, I like the part where John got up and started yelling at the dragon right before what's her name killed the king zombie.
I don't remember.
In the battle of Winterfell against like the zombie army, you know.
I don't remember him yelling at the dragon.
Like it was over. Like, you know, they were about to lose and this and that.
So he had to go out with a snarky remark?
Yeah, so he was like hiding from like, you know, the zombie dragon, and then finally he got up and he's like, the dragon's like all like up on him, and he just like starts screaming, and that's when Arya comes out of nowhere like a fucking Deus Ex Machina, you know what I mean? Like of all people that were gonna kill the Night King, why was it Arya, whose entire plot line had nothing to do with that? Like it should have been Jon Snow.
Dude, I don't remember. Let's get to this fantasy story.
You don't remember the debacle of that Game of Thrones turned? Okay, I'm sorry.
I like how she killed the zombie king. I remember that.
And you know what, Scott? I'm sorry. And you wonder why I'm so angry. This is the world I live in.
What, that I'm interrupting wanting to move on? Or that bad story writing?
Yes. And those two idiots, by the way, they wrapped it up so quickly because they were supposed to get another 2-3 seasons, but no, they had like a deal to do like a Star Wars movie or like a series of Star Wars movies, and they fucked up Game of Thrones so bad that they took away those fucking Star Wars movies.
Really?
Yes.
You know what? That's good. So when we got our next project lined up, we can't like phone this in. We got.
They're doing some bullshit on like Apple TV now.
People that are listening still, rest assured, we're gonna have this amount of sincerity up until the end.
I mean, at least
at the end of the night.
Let's go episode by episode.
Yeah. So he sends word ahead that he's gonna go meet them. How exactly does that happen in those times? Like, how did he know exactly where they were? And
a runner. You have like runners,
and
you know,
like
word
gets around.
You
like,
send away like a lithe young man.
Yeah, and as much as they've been traveling, they are traveling by foot.
What does lithe mean? Do you know what lithe means?
It'll be in the vocabulary section next week.
All right, you're gonna look it up. Lithe.
It means like.
Does it mean like thin?
I want to say thin,
wiry,
svelte, wiry, like moves fluidly.
So those are different things,
yes,
right?
It's all over the place, that word. Huh? I don't know.
All right.
So so they end up meeting up, Moses,
and they catch up,
Mr. Tull,
because they haven't seen each other since Moses left and was almost murdered by God, but saved by his wife's circumcision of their child, who wiped the foreskin on Moses's foot. Right, that whole normal story that took place, like we're supposed to forget that part ever happened.
Yeah, so they go into Moses' tent and they just basically exchange war stories.
He
tells them the whole story about how he just, aced this shit.
Right. And
so if the father-in-law didn't like him before, he definitely likes him now.
Well, he's like, oh shit, Moses is in with like this God dude.
I chose right for my daughter.
Yeah. So he's not denouncing his God.
No, but he does say the Lord is the greatest of the gods.
Yes.
Which brings me back to, is it possible God was talking to other beings, like lesser gods?
The more I think about it, the more yes. And now, because we already know God's a narcissist and a sociopath, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't yawn when other people yawn.
He's plotting against these other gods because apparently God can only exist if people believe in the God that exists. So he's turning all these other people against their gods so that he can get all of the praise and attention.
It's like the never-ending story. You stop believing, then nothing comes. Yeah. Atreyu!
So there's like a rumor that horse really died. It's like online... what do they call those things? Old wives' tale, urban legend. Yeah, that the horse died during the filming of that like bog scene, but it didn't.
I heard no. I heard in the background you could see him hang himself from a tree.
That's Wizard of Oz.
Well, no, this is the horse, and the story he hung himself. Yeah,
because he was always like, he wanted to be in a Shakespeare movie. He was like a serious like London theater trained horse. Right, yeah. And he was like, what am I doing these schlocky like 80s like
shit, yeah. Next movie he was gonna be in Time Bandits next. And he was like, I'm not doing it. gotta show my face in this town. Yeah. So now he says this God, Lord, is the greatest of all gods, and
all right. So
they spend the night. Yeah,
they spend the night talking. They reconnect, and then the next day, Jethro watches as all day Moses spends like mediating like problems that people are having.
It's like he's standing in the town square, sitting, and there's just a line. Like he's like a shopping mall Santa, like just lined up to sit on his lap and ask for things they want.
He's like Vito Corleone on the day of his daughter's wedding.
Oh.
It's just like people are coming in and like complaining about like other people.
Like, what are you complaining about? You were all walking for like all these years. Like, none of these have shit.
And, you know, Moses like, all these years, you never wanted to do business with me.
Mm. Yeah. And Mr. Toe, to his credit, realizes that Moses can't do this all day, every day.
Yeah. So he tells him, he's like, yo, get yourself some lieutenants, like people you trust.
Yeah.
Have them, like, solve all these bullshit, like, little fucking problems, you know? Like, if Ethel thinks that, you know, Martha stole a chicken from her, you know, let them deal with it. You deal with, like, the really important, like, shit.
Yeah, like, what's the value of the pie that somebody took off the windowsill when it was cooling off? Like,
right. And by the way, the Israelites...
Yeah.
Were they completely uncivilized? Were there no, like, rules or laws?
I gotta assume they were.
Why all of a sudden? Where did they go, like, before? Okay, before they came to Egypt, right? When they were living in the land of, like, Shechem and, like, all these other places, they knew how to act, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So all of a sudden, they don't know how to act?
Well, maybe because they had roofs over their heads. They had something about humans, man. They could be the nicest things in the world.
They're not even 3 months into this journey. And by the way, they're like Bedouins. They've brought like they set up like tents. It's like a traveling like city.
They've been humping their stuff.
I saw that on the website, humping.
Yeah. So Jethro suggests Moses only basically is the interface between God and the people.
Yes.
Like when it's a Supreme Court case, he'll do it, and Moses will also teach.
Yes,
the
exactly.
people.
He's like, you're the Supreme Court. Assign like some people to be the lower courts.
Like Harry Anderson, like a night court, and like there's a traffic court, like all the nonsense. And basically appoint judges at different levels, and he specifies like for the tens, the 50s, the hundreds, the thousands. Like so, it's different levels. Like, So and then Jethro goes peace out, and he leaves to his own country.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it.
I don't know if we hear from him again, but that's it. Yeah. And here is the part I've been waiting for.
So this gets us to Exodus 19, right?
Yeah.
And the Israelites reach Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
So after about 3 months, it's described as 3 new moons.
Right.
Which is about like 28 days, right? A new moon is every 28 days or so.
Yes.
So that's about 3 months. They reach basically the mountain upon which Moses is going to receive the 10 Commandments, famously, Mount Sinai. What are you, fucking gonna lay an egg?
I didn't know it was Mount Sinai he gets them from.
Well, that's too bad, because everyone else in the world knows.
It was on top of the mountain, but not that mountain.
Okay, so they reach base camp, and God calls Moses to the mountain.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to read it. It's
go ahead.
Exodus 19, verse 4. He's telling Moses, you're going to go and address the Israelites. And this is what you're going to tell them. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Mm-hmm. Now, therefore, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession out of all the peoples. Indeed, the whole earth is mine, but you shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the Israelites.
That's heavy. I'm going to start with, see what I did to the Egyptians and bore you on eagle's wings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fool, we walked here. like we didn't get on some big pterodactyl.
Right. It wasn't like the end of Lord of the Rings where like Gandalf sent like those eagles, to like rescue them.
They walked. So you might be embellishing this story a little.
It's like God showing up at the very end after the ring like falls into like the volcano, of Mordor, and like fucking the hobbits are just like dying, and God shows up. He's like, "You're welcome."
You saw that? That was me. Yeah. So now he's like, now if you obey me, keep my covenant and all that, you will be my most treasured possessions, which is a weird term.
Okay.
I think
I've got a big problem with this, by the way.
I think Pharaoh called them possessions too, probably. Yeah. But, all right, let's hear about your problem.
Here's my problem. He has been making promises generation after generation, starting with Abraham. He told Abraham, this is what you have to do. We're going to make a covenant. You're going to cut off all these dicks, right?
Well, part of the
and you're going to spread, I'll make sure that, you're going to possess like your offspring and their descendants will possess like the earth. Right? That was the covenant. That was it. That's the fucking covenant right there.
Oh, I know where you're going. I see where you're going with this.
But then with each new person, he's like, well, this is like, you got to do this but he's already made the original covenant. But because he's apparently immortal, he gets to rewrite the rule. He's like, well, that covenant doesn't exist anymore because that guy's dead. But if we're being strict in, heavenly law, biblical law, divine law, God made a promise to Abraham. Abraham fulfilled his part of the covenant. There's no reason why these people should be going through any of what they're going through, or if they are going through, let's say this is God's plan, he shouldn't be adding more shit to the covenant.
I feel you on that. I do.
You know what I'm saying?
I think
like he keeps adding clauses.
And what I think is worse
but both parties have to sign off on these clauses. But he's just like adding clauses.
I'm assuming that he feels once that guy died, that covenant was no longer valid.
But he knew that guy was going to die.
Yeah, well, that guy should have known that.
He's a scumbag.
Kind of, yeah.
Moses
doesn't know the covenant he made with Abraham.
But this is the thing. I'm assuming that these people know the covenants because it's passed down. Right? Like they know, like the rabbi who's writing the book of Exodus, or one of the people who's writing, they know these like oral traditions that have been passed down.
Yeah.
They know Abraham, right? They know like, so they're making up these like traditions. So why wouldn't they know?
Maybe all these stories were built like in a bottle, like a bottle. Like the rabbi that wrote Genesis 1-5 didn't know the rabbi that wrote Genesis. They kept separated.
Yeah. And
then when they were all dead, they just smashed the book together.
Well, that's absolutely what happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't even in a bottle. Like this rabbi wrote it in fucking this bumfuck city or town, and then the other rabbi wrote it in whatever bumfuck fucking town.
So maybe people 4 chapters down don't know what happened in the first chapter because they never read that part. They weren't part of that.
I don't know.
It wasn't until like
the way the Bible is edited. Again, God seems like a real dick.
Yep.
All right, so that was my problem with the whole covenant part, because he keeps like saying like, this is what you have. I keep like making these new covenants with people.
Yeah. So he tells the people like what the Lord expects of them.
Right.
And then Moses has to go back and relay that information to the Lord.
He has to tell the elders, and they're cool with it. The elders were cool with it.
And then he has to relay to God what they said.
Yeah, then
Again, not all powerful. Nothing said he was all powerful.
But then, so God appears in like, you're telling me God doesn't smoke a lot of weed? He's constantly appearing in a cloud of smoke, right? Like he's got like the best Kush going,
the
right?
burning bush was Kush.
Yeah, he's just like appearing in clouds of smoke, right? Constantly, which makes sense, I guess, because Moses is most likely getting super contact high. Because, the weed God smokes, can you imagine how fucking powerful that shit must be?
Maybe that's
it
why
makes
Abraham
the chronic look like dirt.
Maybe that's why Abraham don't speak to Gooder, because he's like so zooted out
He's
of his mind.
high as fuck, of course. That's why Aaron is able to speak, because he's not like really around God, right?
Yeah.
No, it makes total sense.
Doesn't hang out with those burners.
Makes total sense. So God appears in a cloud of smoke, and he's like, I'm going to appear to everybody, he tells Moses, which doesn't make any sense, because he's just instructed Moses, this is what I want you to tell the people, but then he immediately tells him right after, oh, I'm going to speak to the people.
Because he's not there yet. He's on his way. And I'm going to get to that.
Okay, so when he tells Moses, I'm going to speak to the people, he's not physically present.
Nope.
How is he communicating this to Moses?
I'm not going to go there yet.
Okay.
I just want to go on to the people consecrated, which I had to look up. So the Lord told Moses to go to consecrate the people today and tomorrow, wash their filthy clothes. On the third day, I'm coming down onto Mount Sinai in front of everybody.
Right.
So consecrate kind of means to make like a separate, like I didn't really understand what the word meant.
It's kind of like anoint, like prepare to make holy, or like accept into like a religion. Remember like when George
yes,
in Seinfeld wanted to like
he had to become
hook
Greek
up with
Orthodox.
that woman, right? So he started like so they were gonna consecrate him. Like,
okay, gotcha. So he had to consecrate the people, and I'm going to come down the mountain, and this is where this whole thing starts to make sense for me.
It starts to make sense.
Starts to make sense. And he says when he comes down, be careful not to go up or touch the mountain. You'll be put to death by arrows, by stone. It doesn't matter. Animal or human touches the mountain, they're going to be put to death. Mm-hmm. Now, I thought that was like one of them God tests, like an ultimatum. Mm-hmm. But no, he says, be careful. That's a slip up on his part. Because he's not actually going to kill them. The super hot exhaust from the spacecraft that's coming down is going to heat or irradiate the mountain. And if they touch it, they're going to die. So... And then when
it's interesting that you bring this up, because as I was reading this, right? So, okay. This is Exodus 19. I'm going to read this. Okay. You mind if I read it? I'm going to read like the actual verse. It's verse 12. You shall set limits for the people all around, saying,
right,
be careful not to go up the mountain or to touch the edge of it. Any who touch the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch them, but they shall be stoned or shot with arrows. Whether animal or human being, they shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain.
Do you know what that sounds like to me?
It sounds, so you're suggesting it's like a rocket or a spaceship, a spacecraft.
They're cordoning off the landing site.
And the trumpet being like the sound of it accelerating away, like leaving.
Well, no, it's coming down. It's not leaving. It's coming down.
Well, it says, when the trumpet sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain.
I didn't even think about that.
So while it's hovering above the mountain, right, they can't go there because of whatever, radiation or fire or this or that. And then the trumpet is, as it leaves.
And if you think about like what the end of a trumpet looks like,
it
looks like a rocket nozzle.
Okay. Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So what do you think is more likely? This is God?
Yes.
Or this is Elon Musk landing a freaking Falcon in the past?
Bro, today I took Noah to the park and I was reading this section in the park, and what you just said was my exact thought.
Yeah.
My exact thought was, it is more realistic to me that this is a time traveler coming back. And I'm not saying it is. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous to say that. But what I'm saying is that is more reasonable to me than this being God.
But here's where it wasn't reasonable. Like we said earlier, any technology significantly advanced is indistinguishable from magic. So imagine people back then seeing a rocket ship landing. That's not, there's no frame of reference. It's incomprehensible.
Right.
So I can understand how through the years the story would change into this craziness. And this might not even be a time traveler. This literally could be an alien.
Sure.
Or it could be somebody from that lost continent of Atlantis. You know, they slipped out into the real world.
Sure. It could be, right, any of those things. It could be an alien, right? It's unlikely, but it could be. It could be a time traveler. It's unlikely, but it could be. But the only thing that it is not is an entity that created everything and is in control of everything.
So yeah, so so he mentions when the trumpet sounds, you can come up. I was also thinking, well, maybe it's like a construction site, like when the dynamite's going off.
Right.
It's not safe until you hear the siren.
And by the way, I'm sorry, your suggestion is, the command not to go up on the mountain is for safety reasons.
Yes.
I thought when I was reading it, it's for obfuscation. It's to like hide. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, you know, like don't like approach the curtain, you know, because I've got all these fancy like.
Right.
Did you see the Spider-Man movie
No.
Far From Home?
No.
So the premise for that movie is it's stolen technology where it's like all of these drones.
Spoiler alert.
So thousands of drones that can create like images. So let's say 1,000 drones lined up together can create an image of this monster, and the drones are equipped with like lasers and this and that. So it looks like a monster is like destroying like whatever, but it's really like a collection of like orchestrated drones, you know, working, synchronized drones working together. If we're talking about aliens or time travel, it's very simple for them to then do shit like separate the Red Sea or like, you know, do any of the things that are being described.
These are all transport a force field teleporting tricks.
Right.
All right, so he says, those are the instructions. So Moses goes down to the people and says, prepare for the third day. Do not go near a woman.
Yeah.
There's no mention of it again?
I wrote down Moses prepared everyone and then told them they can't have sex.
Oh, maybe because they clean themselves.
Maybe part of the consecration for God. You can't have like smegma.
Okay. All right. So on the third day,
although they are all circumcised, so that would like reduce the amount of smegma.
So on the third day,
the smegma being, you know, like,
yeah, we know what it is, man.
I just like saying smegma. Stank on your hang low.
I've never heard that before. And I hope I never hear it again.
Amy and I, we met on a New York Rangers message board back when message boards were still a thing. Mm-hmm. And there was a user whose handle was stank on my hang low. It's like a big contributor to the board.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so on the third day, thunder and lightning and a thick cloud and a blast of trumpets so loud, Mount Sinai wrapped in smoke because the Lord descended in fire.
Mm-hmm. And it was shaking. The mountain was shaking.
Shook violently. The blast of the trumpet got louder and louder. And then Moses was summoned up to the top of the mountain.
Right. This is funny, by the way.
This is hysterical.
Well, he gets summoned up so that he can go back down to tell people and then to go back up.
And then he goes, go down and get Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, yo, come here. And then Moses makes his way up.
Yeah. So then,
and God, by the way, how's he responding? As what? He's not like, it's not a voice.
Oh, he's communicating through thunder?
Thunder, right.
Yeah, I don't know. And he's very clear, no priests or people can come up or the Lord will break out against them.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that meant I'm breaking out, like I'm leaving.
Well, he's already
breaking out. Maybe it's the ultimate breakdance off. This is the final stage. This is the boss level. This wins the cartridge.
Right. So Mario's reached like Donkey Kong now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to get into this, man. We're not getting like everything here, and again, because they don't have a frame of reference. Reading this in 2022, if I never heard of God or anything, this story is clearly of a spacecraft. To me, it's like the most reasonable thing. And then when you said that the trumpet sounded loud, maybe the ship dropped something off and then took off away, and that's why it was now safe to come up. I kind of thought it kind of landed up there.
Yeah.
And he didn't want people coming up because then they would see it.
Well,
they would see behind the veil, like you said.
Right.
But Aaron, they trust because, they've been in Aaron's head this whole time.
Right.
So, dude, man, it's an alien.
So, again,
time travel.
When I was sitting in the park, I didn't think it was an alien, but I definitely thought of the time travel scenario. I'm going to send you a link. There's a great clip from PBS. There was a series about time specifically, and Brian Greene, you know who Brian Greene is?
Oh, was he in like Beverly Hills 90210?
No, that's Brian Austin Greene. He was banging Megan Fox.
In Texas.
He was like married to her. No, this Brian Greene was not banging Megan Fox.
Shame.
He's an astrophysicist.
I'd rather be the other Brian Greene.
He's like the new Carl Sagan insofar as like he writes books for the public, like he's like the less arrogant version of Neil deGrasse
I was going to say, is he a little less arrogant than Neil?
Right. So he's like a more palatable version of Neil deGrasse because he's not as full of himself. And I've told you...
So you'd rather eat him than Neil?
Yes. I would rather digest him emotionally. So I've told you about the World Science Festival videos that I've watched on YouTube. He organizes this.
Okay.
I've talked to you about it. You don't remember any of this. They have deep conversations, so they'll have like a panel of like 5 astrophysicists, mathematicians, whatever. Even like they have like astrophysical philosophers. Yeah. And they'll have a conversation about parallel universes. And like...
When you say philosophers, you mean strictly in scientific terms and scientific exploration.
Yes.
Thought experiments and everything.
Yes.
Okay.
They're scientists.
Gotcha.
Who deal specifically with the philosophy of like science, like quantum physics and like shit like that. So in other words, they're the guys there to say like, if we start fucking with like time, like, you know what I mean? If we start like going to the quantum level and we're able to reproduce the Higgs boson, like all that shit. So anyway, so Brian Greene runs like something called the World Science Festival. There's a whole bunch of like talks and discussion panels and lectures. I highly recommend everybody to go check it out. They have some really interesting discussions. He has something on PBS dealing with time, and he explained it in a way visually that everyone should go and look at. Basically, all time, according to the theory of relativity, which so far keeps... Every year, there's like a new confirmation of its like validity. Every year
right after they claim
they find something that makes it more and more like valid. They haven't been able to reconcile it yet with like, is it quantum mechanics? So that's like the theory of everything they're trying to find. They thought like superstring theory was going to like get it done. Now there's questions about whether superstring theory is even like a valid like science or not.
What if it's crazy string theory?
Like the
cans?
Oh, shit. All right. Sorry. So Brian Greene, he had this thing on time. So according to relativity, all time exists together.
Right.
Okay. And then he used some illustration where he made like the universe, which is space-time, right? Space-time is a fabric. And he visualized it visualize it as like a loaf of bread. Okay. Now, if you
leavened or unleavened?
Leavened. Leavened. So like a loaf of leavened bread, risen bread.
Expansion theory bread.
If you slice it straight across, right? The section that you're slicing across, the time is the same. But if you slice it across like diagonally, you start at one time, but on the other side, it's another time. Okay? But it exists at the same time. So it's kind of like if you're looking at a bicyclist moving away from you, technically, as they're moving away from you and you're standing still on at a basic level, your time is faster than their time because they're moving. You understand? The faster you move, the slower your time is.
Of course I don't understand. Nobody understands this crap.
Right. So
you understand that it's being talked about.
So here's the point.
Theorizing about it.
Here's the point. Go watch this video. Look at how he describes time travel. And the whole reason I went off on this tangent was to say that, to agree with what you're saying, when I was reading this section in the park, the section where God descends on the mountain, and there's all these, like, the description, I thought immediately of that Brian Greene thing about all time existing at the same time. And if that's possible, then why can't time travel theoretically be possible? I don't know if it's possible or not, but the point is, to me, it is more believable that a time traveler arrived, than this being an all-knowing, all-powerful creator who has this need for love and worship and respect and expects everyone to follow and obey all of his rules.
Or maybe they're conquerors from another continent that hasn't been discovered yet, that has a more advanced technology, that got lost somehow when they burned down the Library of Alexandria or something. Who knows? They might not even be time travelers. It could be modern day humans of the time that had advanced technology.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
We can speculate with all I want.
Sure.
But seriously,
like the Atlanteans.
Like yeah, exactly. But really, this is a spaceship landing. Come on, man. Come on.
Okay, but time travel could be from a spaceship, right?
Yeah, of course it could. I've seen Star Trek episodes that do that. All right, so what is next week?
So basically we leave off how did we leave off? We leave off with
the aliens
God telling Moses, go get Aaron.
Yeah.
Bring him up to the mountain, right? Bring him up to the top of the mountain. I'm going to meet with him.
Why you got to meet with Aaron? Why you meet with Aaron?
And that's where we leave off. And we're going to pick it up next week, and we are going to do the 10 Commandments.
Nice. I like the little preview.
The 10 Commandments.
The 10
so next week, we're going to start with Exodus 20. I don't know how deep it goes, like Exodus 25, 20. However long it goes, I think we should definitely cover
all 10.
All 10.
I'm reading all 10.
Yeah. Let's do.
Like I did the 6 days. I'm doing the 10 Commandments.
All right. You think it's like a list? Like you think it's going to be like an actual list of 10 Commandments?
I wonder if it's an unordered list, which is bullet points, or it's an ordered list with like numerals.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I know.
You think it's a list, or you think it's like a whole bunch of fucking nonsense?
I got to know how to code the HTML, man.
So,
I think we're good, man.
So next week, the 10 Commandments.
All right, peace.
All right, peace out.